June 14, 2025. It was a typical Saturday morning at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. The terminal buzzed with the familiar energy of travelers, families, business people, and vacationers, all eager to reach their destinations. The digital departure boards glowed with dozens of flights, each representing a story about to unfold. Alaska Airlines Flight 2123, an Embraer E-175, was scheduled for a short, routine hop from Seattle to Walla Walla. The crew prepared the aircraft as passengers began to board, greeted by the friendly smiles of the flight attendants and the reassuring hum of the jet engines. Inside the cabin, passengers stowed their carry-ons, found their seats, and settled in for what everyone assumed would be an uneventful flight. Some scrolled through their phones, others chatted quietly, and a few gazed out the windows at the busy tarmac. But as the plane taxied toward the runway, the routine was shattered. A male passenger seated near the middle of the cabin suddenly made a direct and alarming threat to a flight attendant. His words were chilling, his tone unmistakably serious. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted. What had been a calm, almost mundane environment was now charged with tension and uncertainty. Passengers sensed something was wrong, their conversations fading as worried glances were exchanged. The flight attendant, trained for emergencies, recognized the gravity of the situation. Without hesitation, she discreetly signaled her colleagues and moved swiftly down the aisle, her face betraying a sense of urgency. The aircraft came to a halt on a remote taxiway away from the main terminal. Engines idled as the plane sat alone, isolated from the bustle of the airport. Tension quietly spread through the cabin, every minute stretching longer than the last. Most passengers remained unaware of the specifics, but the crew was already following strict security protocols. Behind the scenes, the flight attendants and pilots communicated in hushed tones, coordinating their next steps with precision and calm. Suddenly, the captain's voice broke the uneasy silence. Over the intercom, he announced a security issue and informed everyone that there would be a delay. The ambiguity of his words only heightened the anxiety among the passengers, who now listened intently for any further updates. Moments later, emergency vehicles appeared on the horizon, fire trucks, police cars, and airport security, all racing toward the isolated aircraft. Their flashing lights reflected off the plane's fuselage, a stark signal that this was no ordinary delay. The plane, now surrounded by emergency responders, became the center of a major security incident. From above, it looked small and vulnerable, encircled by vehicles and personnel ready for any outcome. For those on board, what began as a simple journey had transformed into a life-altering ordeal. Fear, confusion, and uncertainty filled the cabin, as everyone waited to learn what would happen next. In the midst of uncertainty, the flight attendant remained remarkably calm, her composure a steady anchor for everyone on board. She moved with quiet confidence through the aisle, her demeanor reassuring even as tension simmered beneath the surface. Every gesture was purposeful, every glance calculated to avoid drawing attention to the unfolding situation. Discreetly, she alerted the cockpit, using coded language and subtle signals to communicate the potential threat. Her actions were so seamless that neither the suspect nor the other passengers sensed anything unusual. The crew's ability to communicate under pressure without causing panic was a testament to their rigorous training and professionalism. In the cockpit, the pilots immediately understood the gravity of the message. They halted the plane on the runway, quickly switching to secure radio channels. Using pre-arranged coded phrases, they declared a security threat to air traffic control, ensuring that the situation was handled with utmost discretion and urgency. Air traffic control responded by directing the aircraft to a secure, isolated area of the airfield, far from terminals and other planes. This move was crucial, minimizing risk to others and allowing authorities to respond without interference. Inside the cabin, the crew maintained their composure, projecting calm and offering quiet reassurance to passengers. They answered questions with practiced ease, their voices steady and their faces composed, working to keep anxiety at bay. Their training kicked in seamlessly. Every move was deliberate, every word measured. The crew coordinated silently, exchanging glances and subtle signals, ensuring that everyone knew their role and that no detail was overlooked. The captain's priority was clear: keep everyone safe and prevent the plane from taking off until the threat was contained. Over the intercom, he made calm, reassuring announcements, careful not to reveal the true nature of the emergency and risk causing panic. By following strict protocol, the crew contained the threat and smoothly handed control over to ground authorities as soon as the plane was secured. Security teams and police boarded the aircraft, ready to take over the situation. The plane, once a potential target, was now a secured scene, surrounded by airport security vehicles and law enforcement. The coordinated response ensured that the threat was neutralized without incident. Thanks to the crew's quick thinking, professionalism, and unwavering calm, the situation remained under control from start to finish, safeguarding everyone on board and preventing a crisis from escalating. Guided by air traffic control, the pilots carefully taxied the aircraft away from the main terminal, steering it toward a designated isolation pad. This area, chosen for its distance from other planes and airport operations, was meant to minimize risk to the public and airport staff. The jet came to a stop far from terminals and runways, surrounded by open tarmac. Here the aircraft was effectively cut off from the rest of the airport, creating a controlled environment for authorities to respond. Within minutes, police vehicles converged on the scene, forming a tight perimeter around the plane. Their lights flashed in the dusk, but sirens remained off to avoid escalating tensions inside the cabin. Officers moved with purpose, establishing a secure zone and keeping bystanders at a safe distance. Inside the cockpit, the captain maintained constant radio contact with ground authorities. Every update from the cabin was relayed, ensuring that law enforcement had the latest information about the situation on board. Outside, law enforcement took command of the operation. Teams of police and airport security gathered near the runway, quickly strategizing how to apprehend the suspect and evacuate passengers without putting anyone at further risk. Their plan had to account for every possible scenario, from negotiation to forced entry. Every move was calculated, balancing the urgency of the threat with the need for caution. Tactical teams moved into position, ready to respond at a moment's notice, while negotiators prepared to make contact if needed. Inside the cabin, passengers pressed their faces to the windows, watching the growing emergency response unfold outside. The sight of so many police and emergency vehicles made the seriousness of the situation undeniable, and anxiety rippled through the rows of seats. The flight attendants moved quietly through the aisles, offering calm words and steady reassurance. They worked to keep everyone seated and composed, even as the plane itself felt more and more like a temporary prison, sealed off from the world. The aircraft, once a vessel of travel and routine, was now transformed into a hot zone under tactical control. Every exit was guarded, and every movement was monitored by authorities outside. Outside, emergency responders prepared their equipment, ready for any outcome. Firefighters, medics, and police stood by, united in their goal to resolve the crisis safely and bring everyone home. The Port of Seattle police response was soon joined by fire crews and tactical teams. Firefighters stood by for any emergency, while armed officers formed an inner perimeter. Tactical teams prepared for direct intervention if needed. A unified command post coordinated police, fire, airport, and federal agencies. Passengers inside saw the scale of the response, frightening yet reassuring. The operation was now a model of multi-agency crisis management. Once the suspect was secured by tactical officers, passengers were ordered to deplane via air stairs onto the tarmac. Escorted by police, they left behind their belongings for security screening. Bused to the terminal, they faced secondary TSA screening. Shoes off, electronics out, nerves frayed. The process was slow and exhausting, but necessary for safety. Only after hours of checks were they released to rebook flights and retrieve luggage. Alaska Airlines staff provided support, but the ordeal left passengers shaken. Their short flight had become an all-day test of patience and resilience. Security protocols, though disruptive, had kept everyone safe. The experience was a stark reminder of aviation's hidden vulnerabilities. The incident's impact rippled across SeaTac Airport. The FAA issued a ground stop, halting all incoming flights. 2 runways closed, paralyzing operations and causing massive delays. Thousands of travelers faced cancellations, missed connections, and crowded terminals. The disruption spread nationwide as aircraft and crews were left out of position. Departure boards filled with delays, frustration mounted. The chaos showed how a single threat can cripple a major hub. The interconnectedness of air travel means one incident can disrupt journeys far beyond its origin. With the threat contained, the investigation began. The FBI took charge, interviewing the suspect and all passengers and crew. Agents searched the aircraft and all luggage for evidence or secondary threats. Every detail was scrutinized to build a timeline and motive. The process was slow, deliberate, and thorough. Federal prosecutors prepared serious charges against the suspect. Findings would inform future security protocols and training. The message was clear: threats to aviation are met with the full force of the law. The Flight 2123 scare was just one blow to Alaska Airlines that summer. Weeks later, a major IT outage grounded the airline's entire fleet for hours. Nearly 200 flights were canceled, stranding thousands nationwide. Both incidents, one physical, one digital, exposed aviation's vulnerabilities. The ripple effects were enormous, from stranded passengers to financial losses. Yet, decisive action and strict protocols kept safety paramount. In aviation, every link matters. When one fails, the whole system feels it.